The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Welcome to Staring Into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach. With me, as always, is Michael Patrick Hicks.
Hello.
Matt Brandenburg.
Hey, people.
And our very special guest, Matt Wildasin.
Ahoy, hoy.
Ahoy, hoy.
God,
Welcome to Staring Into the Abyss.
Forever.
Thanks for having me on Staring Into the Abyss.
Yes.
No problem. Glad to have you.
We finally have two Matts. It makes me very happy.
And that's kind of, I feel like that's rare that hasn't happened already, because I find Matt to be a pretty common name.
Right? I do too, but for some reason we keep having other people that have Mike. Usually, Mike, you're the one. I feel like we've had your name more than once.
You know, I don't think we have. I know we've had Matt Corley on the show.
Oh, we have. Maybe I've been getting more Matts.
You have been. Yeah, this is not a first-time event for you.
Yeah, this
you hear that, Mike? He's
before.
projecting. He's selfish.
It's all part of my disorders. Different names, faces.
Different neuroses.
Yes. I don't even know if this is actually happening right now. So
I could be sleeping still.
I could be.
Matt's
Oh,
just
man.
a big bundle of disorders and nerves.
So, like 2 weeks ago, this is just a funny side note, but 2 weeks ago, before I went to work, I had a dream, and the dream was me waking up, getting dressed, going to work, having a full day of work, going home, only to wake up and have to actually go to work.
Those are the best.
Wow.
So, like, half the time I was at work, I was like, is this real life, or am I just still dreaming? What's going on right now?
Usually at that point, you wake up disappointed. You're like, oh, man, I still have to do all of this again.
Well, Rich, could I introduce you to hard liquor?
I mean, I do enjoy hard liquor, but I'm more of a cannabis guy myself, personally speaking.
Okay. Well, I mean, that should not cause work dreams, but
It shouldn't, but it did.
I mean, if you become a full-time drinker, you won't remember anything. So
That's true.
Yeah,
I'll see how long I can keep that up.
This is Rich's life on the edge.
dreaming about work.
Honestly, though, like I have a story in a minute, but I can't speak too much about my work. I will say though, at my work last week, like there's a student in one of my classes who never comes to class, and this last week they came to class, and they look at me like straight in the eye, deadpan, and they just go, "What would you do if I stab you with this?" And then held up a pencil. I was just like, I would say you should probably get your work done.
And internally, you're like, this is a dream. This is a dream. This is a dream.
Pretty much. Well, internally, I'm like, he doesn't want to catch these hands. I used to do karate. I still got some of those moves, despite being fat now.
Daniel's son. He'll try to come at you with that pencil and just crane kick. Perfect execution to the lower jaw.
Bam.
And you see Mr. Miyagi's in the window just nodding. He's like, yes.
Wax on, wax off.
I don't know why, but I'm getting like the slow motion Bionic Man kind of spin kick.
$1 million man.
Yeah.
Or like, what's his name from Kung Fury? You just start like going nuts on him.
Oh my God, that would be great.
One day that
Besides,
sequel will come out.
Well, yeah, the sequel needs to come out soon. But besides that tangent, today's episode of Staring Into the Abyss is going to be a discussion of the children's classic Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And before we dive into scary stories, we'd like to kind of give a recommendation of what we kind of consumed in the last week media-wise. So I'll get started with the Mortuary Collection.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Have you guys seen this one yet?
No.
Yeah, I have not seen it, but I have heard some very wildly disparate reviews of. Some have been going on about it's fantastic, and then I see another review that's like 1 star, hated it.
So I will say I don't like horror anthology films.
Oh.
I don't know how you guys feel about horror anthology films, but I tend not to like them.
I personally feel like there's only a small few that are worth your time.
Yeah.
Like Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
Oh my
Creep
goodness.
Show.
I literally watched that yesterday.
Yeah. And Creep Show. Yeah.
Creep Show. But like when we see those movies, they're handled by one director, one writer, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a clear vision spread across. I think like the VHS movies are worth checking out. I like the VHS movies. They have at least 2 good segments that's worth watching them for.
Yeah. I'd say each movie at least has 2 solid segments.
But I
So
feel like
half of
having
them are good.
pretty much. I feel like having a unified vision helps with an anthology movie. And that's what makes Mortuary Collection work. And I kind of burped when I said that. That was weird. That kind of makes Mortuary Collection work. And so like Trick or Treat, it's just one writer, one director. And it takes place in this like town in the 80s. And it's kind of like this macabre little sleepy little town. And there's a mortuary which is run by Clancy Brown.
Yeah, I heard he was in that, and that made me very excited.
Perfect.
We all know as the voice of Mr. Krabs.
Yeah.
Or the preacher in Carnival.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love Clancy Brown. He's great.
Oh, he's awesome.
And he's kind of like the storyteller in this movie where each of the segments are like him telling the stories of people who've died. And there's a plot that goes around that for the wraparound story as well. But like the deaths are super creative and super fun. Like the first like big story is about these college frat boys who are trying to get ladies over to their frat party to have sex with. And they're passing out condoms to like trick ladies into coming over and then just fucking them without the condom. And
That's one way to do
80s,
it.
man. It's one way to do it. And the main character ends up getting pregnant
Uh-oh.
from fucking this girl without a condom. Only
Wait, so the
he's
guy
not
gets pregnant?
The guy gets pregnant.
Wait, for real?
For real.
Oh, I mean, Arnold did it. It's not that bad.
You're right.
And this is slight spoilers for it, but the thing he gives birth to comes out his dick.
Okay.
And it is a fucking hilarious.
Like, do they show that, or is it off camera?
They show his dick explode, and then the camera cuts away.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Is the baby named Urethra Franklin?
I wish. The second movie's about this like guy who marries a girl who ends up getting very, very, very sick and him having to be her caretaker and him wanting to like get out of it. But he married her till death does them part. Hint, hint, hint. That one's really like dark, and that one has a really good ending sequence as well. All the segments have really creative ending sequences with some really interesting kills and some great practical effects work.
Okay.
It doesn't take itself too seriously either. I'd compare it to like Trick or Treat or even Creep Show, where like practical effects, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it still kind of has that dark, macabre edge to it that goes along with some of the comedy of it. Okay. And if they ever need to remake Phantasm, Clancy Brown should be the tall man.
Oh, that would,
that would definitely work. Tall man, but he has to use Mr. Krabs' voice.
I can't even do it, but I would try.
It would be perfect. You just see the ball like flying down the hallway, and he's like, ah, gah, 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 gah.
Oh my gosh.
That would be fucking perfect.
I would love it. I'd buy stock.
Clancy Brown stock.
Yes.
There we go. Kickstarter campaign. Clancy Brown.
But overall, I definitely say if you have Shudder, it's worth checking out. But Mike, any recommendations from you?
Castle of Sorrows by Jonathan Janz. I've been craving Janz. I don't know if you guys ever go through this where you're just kind of in a reading slump and you're craving the works of a particular author.
Yes.
Yes.
So I've been going through that with Janz for like 2 months. I've been needing to get back to a Janz book. So I finally was able to get to the sequel to his debut, The Sorrows, with Castle of Sorrows, in which his lead protagonist, Ben Shadland, his newborn daughter, is kidnapped by the creature that inhabits this haunted island and castle off the coast of California that leads him back to Castle Blackwood to try and save his daughter. And it picks up a year after the events of the first book. It ties into an FBI investigation that's happening on the island following the events of the first book. Some local mobsters who are trying to get money out of the mother of one of the people who was killed last year on the island. So Shadland gets wrapped up, and all of these other various characters all find themselves tied together and then trapped on the island. And it's a really, really fun ride. It's a lot of action. The first book was more of like a slow burn gothic horror mold that you would expect out of a castle-based horror. This one kind of really goes more for the action, full throttle. It's a bit kind of like the T2 to Terminator. So lots of gunplay, lots of monster mayhem, really cool creature feature. It's a lot of fun. I had a blast with this one, and it hit that little feel that I needed for a Janz book perfectly. So I was very happy with this one.
Was there a T-1000 in it?
No T-1000, but you do get a bunch of ghosts. The castle freak that inhabits Castle Blackwood, mobsters killing people, get a whole bunch of violence, big gory splatter scenes.
That sounds fun.
So I'd like to introduce you guys to how my brain likes to work. So I know what a great what a great way to bring that open. But so it was one line you said, Mike, when you were starting. You're like, I was craving some Janz, and then for some reason in my head, I'm like, Jonathan Janz has a pretty decent catalog of books.
Yes, he does.
And I was like, this would be a great idea for like to get new readers in. You start yourself like a monthly subscription. And then I thought about how there used to be Jelly of the Month. So this could be Janz of the Month Club. I think he'd probably go for it too. He seems like a pretty, he's open to stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he would be down. I think he's probably a Jelly of the Month subscriber.
Yeah, I wouldn't
be surprised.
It is the gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
Exactly. It's better than a bonus check.
Flame Tree Press acquired his entire back catalog after Sam Hain went down. And they basically did that. I mean, all of these books, he had like 11 or 12 titles that they were releasing over the course of 2018 and 2019. Like one book a month was Jonathan Janz re-releases.
Okay.
But I'm sure he wouldn't mind re-upping that deal and getting them out to new audiences one at a time again.
Yeah, you could package it all up nice and,
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Flame Tree, if you're listening, Janz of the Month Club, get on it.
Yeah.
Get us
just books at random into a box with some different Jonathan Janz swag and send it out.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's an audience for it.
Baseball card collection pictures of him. It'd be cool.
Yeah. I remember when I first really got into Stephen King, I joined the Stephen King library, and every month they would send you a hardcover of one of his releases.
Nice.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
so
Janz will just be following the footsteps of Stephen King with Janz of the Month.
Yes.
Which has a much better name than the Stephen King library.
Yeah.
Just saying.
They were trying to be serious with him, I guess.
Right? It sounds very classy that way. Get your Stephen King fix with the Mangler.
Get your Stephen King fix with the shit weasels from the Stephen King library.
Oh my God, the shit weasels. How many times do you think Morgan Freeman read that part in the script and he's like, seriously, I really have to say this?
Yeah, I know, right.
And what is with these eyebrows? Come on.
Hey, man, those eyebrows are Oscar worthy.
Yeah, I know. They gave that. Oh, my God. Do you guys remember the infomercials for Jack LaLanne Juicer?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes.
Remember his eyebrows? Like, that gave those a run for their money, man.
Yeah.
Those are actually caterpillars.
Oh, yeah. That was his secret to longevity, actually.
Yes.
Caterpillar blood over his eyes.
He was actually just an old meat suit filled with bugs.
Yeah. Like Oogie Boogie.
I knew it.
Matt, do you have any recommendations for us last week?
Yeah, let me introduce you to this new bug juice. It's great. Yeah, protein. So I read, and I think Mike, you read this too. The Crypt of Blood, a Halloween TV special by Jonathan Raab.
Oh yes,
it's a fun little. It's a short book. I think it's maybe like 40. I think it's 60 pages, and it is sort of a novelization about this tape that basically some cable access studio put together this like Halloween special. And it's like some cheesy kind of Dracula kind of gothic Hammer kind of thing, but it's legend because all the actors died on film. And so this tape is mysteriously is like an urban legend, and you as the protagonist, it's all you watching this, and you found this tape in some weird place. And so the book, either novella or short, whatever you want, novelette, it kind of tells what's happening. It gives you each kind of like scene, and even has commercials in it. And then every once in a while, it'll kind of cut to like you remembering how you got it from like this weird place, from this like weird goat man. But it's great because like it's just exactly perfect for Halloween time, which we're recording around Halloween. Fun, tiny little thing. Every once in a while, he'll like there will be like a line or two that the screen changes, and something, you see a guy in a bag with a bag over his head who's, I think, getting electrocuted or tortured. And then it cuts back to the video of the people pretending to be Dracula and pretending to try to stop this evil that lives in this village. It's fun. It almost could be longer. I don't know if any of you have read his other one, Camp Ghoul, or what was it?
Camp Ghoul Part 4?
Yes, Camp Ghoul Mountain Part 4 or 6. It's one of those. It reminded me of that one, and that worked better. I think it works better as a longer thing. So the Camp Ghoul Mountain one is a novelization about this movie, but then there's also commentary and there's like footnotes, and it's all about like this director kind of took these basically like Friday the 13th movies and like did this really weird like propaganda thing, and they might have caught aliens on film and all this stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I love what he does. I mean, Muzzleland Press, which is his, they kind of do this thing. So like he had a anthology all about video games and like evilness in video games, and then he did one which I think I talked about before, but it's all about kind of Hammer horror. And that was another anthology that had a bunch of just different stuff kind of in that Hammer horror vein. So he definitely does this really cool thing with like media and kind of twisting it and adding in new creepiness. And so for this one, Crypt of Blood, I feel like it could have been longer just to give us a little bit more. It ends kind of weird, and it doesn't really you don't need to explain everything that's happening in this show, but just a little bit more. I couldn't quite tell what he was trying to do, but it was fun, and it was a great little book to read for Halloween. You know, it was short. I probably finished it like in an hour. So yes, Crypt of Blood. And I think he sold out first round, but by the time this airs, they'll definitely be, I think he's doing a second printing of it. So,
oh, good for him.
Perfect. That sounds fun. I like Jonathan Raab a lot.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's a lot of fun. And our guest, Matt, do you have any recommendations from last week?
As far as reading goes, a lot of the stuff I've been reading, you probably can't. I mean, I guess you could get online possibly. I've just been reading a lot of local ghost story books.
Nice.
You know, I usually do it every Halloween, and like over
the
the
Weird
year.
series.
What's that?
Like the Weird series, like Weird New Jersey, Weird Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's kind of like those. Yeah. I guess some of them are all done by independent authors as well. And they just wind up in like local gift shops and stuff. So throughout the year, like when we go traveling, if we go somewhere new, I usually will go to a shop like that or a local library and see if they have, like that town's ghost lore books and stuff. And I'll collect them and then I'll read them during October.
That's awesome.
So that's basically, I've been reading those. I read a Goosebump book. And I was just like, yeah, why not? I read the Tag of the Jack-o'-lanterns because it takes place during Halloween. So yeah, I haven't been reading any like set authors' work this month, but I kind of go about October in a weird fashion. As far as movies go, I've watched quite a few this month just because I have my own personal catalog. And then the stuff I'm watching for my podcast, Grindcast, because we're doing the segment we call Spooktober Cinema, where we watch really bad horror movies. In this case, there were actually 2 good ones. But
it's been a lot of fun.
So the last one we just watched, which this will air Monday, was we watched Stay Alive, the horror movie about a game that kills you if you die in the game. So, yeah.
Like Jumanji rated R.
Pretty much. Just not done well either. It's just it's a good premise, but my God, they just weren't trying. So if you want to laugh, I guess I could recommend that. But like, if you want to watch a good movie, I highly do not recommend that. I would recommend watching, I think it was our second movie we reviewed this month, and that was Perfect Blue, the anime.
Oh, Perfect Blue is really good.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That I had not seen that before that time when we reviewed it, and that quickly jumped up into my top 5 anime movies of all time. That was fantastic. I loved every bit of it.
The director of that movie has made nothing but like fantastic movies too.
Yeah, Paranoia Agent's another one that's up there for me.
Yeah.
I started watching Bly Manor because we're going to start another podcast that I'm starting is the Ghostwriters podcast with myself, Mary Sangiovanni, Summer Cannon, and Dave Thomas. We want to talk about that show because they saw it and I hadn't gotten around to it yet. And I have mixed feelings. I was a really big fan of the first one, Haunting of Hill House. I really liked how it was done. I liked the execution and all of it. And this one, it just so far does not feel the same. And it doesn't always have to feel the same, but it just, there's certain things when it's a returning director that you're kind of hoping for and expecting. And I just haven't gotten that yet.
Yeah. So a couple of things about Bly Manor. Flanagan only directed the first episode.
Okay.
And he kind of overviewed the script of the show.
Well,
so Flanagan was more of like a supervisor position than he was like in the director's chair.
Well, I wish he was in the chair again.
I will say though, like Bly Manor's going for many different things than Hill House did. I think if you're looking for scares, Hill House is much scarier than Bly Manor.
Yeah, for sure.
But Bly Manor got me in the feels a bit more than Hill House did.
Right.
So Bly Manor is going for more like emotional, like hit you in the feels, whereas like Hill House is more like, hey, everything sucks and it's scary as hell.
Which kind of also brings me to the other thing I was going to talk about, which was a game, and that was I played some of Amnesia Afterlife.
Oh, nice.
I'm playing that right now.
I feel like how you described Bly Manor is exactly the same description I would give to this. It's not coming after you for the scares, but it's trying to tell you a really deep, engrossing story. Like that's how I'm getting at it.
Yeah, like one thing when I talk, like I'm only a few hours into Amnesia. I just got to the fort.
Okay.
So I'm not too far into it yet. But with Bly Manor, like I kind of, when I talk about Hill House and Bly Manor, Hill House seems to be saying like what it means to be haunted. Like to be haunted, what does that do to a person?
Right.
And the trauma that follows a person through being haunted. Whereas Bly Manor is more kind of asking the question, what does it mean to become a ghost? And what goes along with that?
Yeah, my wife and I are slowly working our way through Bly Manor and just got up to episodes 5 and 6 last night. And it really hasn't been until episode 5 and 6 that this show finally started to click for me.
Yeah,
It
I
takes
kind
a
of
little
felt that
bit.
way too.
5 and 6 is when the show's like, oh, so that's really what's happening. Okay.
Yeah. It was like I was finally compelled to actually put my phone down instead of doom surf on Twitter and watch the show.
Hey, Mike, speaking of Doomsurf Twittering, we made it through a debate without getting put in Twitter jail.
What the hell happened? Twitter really dropped the ball.
They finally accepted it.
I think we were even more vulgar and outrageous
The
during
second time.
Yeah, than we were the first time, and no jail time for either of us. I'm really disappointed. I was hoping to get a 7-day suspension, but no luck.
Like, I got a 7-day suspension, and you got fucking 12 hours?
I got a 12-hour during the first debate. Second debate, nothing.
You just got to ramp up your game.
I guess so.
I got 7 days during the first debate. It was wild.
Yeah, and we're not going to have another chance to do this again for 4 years. So,
Well, speaking of the
depending
debate,
on who wins.
Yeah.
to do a bit of a sidetrack, I was going to mention Amnesia. Like, I'm not finished Amnesia, but I'm still playing it. The story is really engrossing. But going off the debate, and to get sidetracked with horror a little bit, I saw Borat 2.
Yeah, I remember you messaging me that you were going to watch it.
I saw Borat 2, and it's pretty funny, actually. I expected it not to be funny.
Yeah,
but
that's what I heard from a lot of people's like reviews. They're like, it's funnier than I thought it was going to be. And I'll be honest, that trailer did not sell it.
Yeah.
So do you guys, I'm sure Mike remembers this, but remember back like in January or February when a Donald Trump impersonator crashed Mike Pence's speech in CPAC?
I was reminded of that the other day. Yeah.
Because that was Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
And that
Trying
whole
to give a
scene
15-year-old to Pence as a new wife.
he's dressed up as Donald Trump, and the actress is playing his daughters over his shoulder, and he runs in and goes, "Michael Penis, I have your bride for you."
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
I was in fucking tears, like I couldn't.
I did like his response to Rudy Giuliani's excuses for his behavior during the filming of this. Where Borat...
Yeah, the movie was as wild as the first movie was. Like, I feel the first movie... And nowadays, we're kind of used to guerrilla comedy. Like,
Yeah.
guerrilla comedy's kind of outstated its welcome. People are more suspicious of it now. But he still managed to make it work somehow.
Well, good. Yeah, I'll
Like,
have to check it out. It hasn't been high on my radar, but I am very curious to see what he does with this
To me, the
particular
funniest
crowd.
scene in the movie is he goes to a bakery. This is near the beginning. He goes to a bakery, and he wants to buy a cake for Michael Pence. So he asks the baker to write "Death to all Jews," smiley faces on the cake, which the baker does.
Wow.
And then his daughter sees cupcakes with like a toy baby in the frosting. And she's like, Daddy, I want this. Give me cupcake. And he's like, he doesn't want to because it's Borat, and Borat doesn't like his daughter because, you know, he's a misogynist. But eventually he like gives in and he's like, okay, I'll get you a cupcake. And he gets it for her. They go to the back alley and she goes and starts eating the frosting. Like, he shoves a cupcake in her face and she eats the frosting and she eats a toy baby. And she goes, uh-oh, I have the baby inside me. And then they go to one of those, like, you know, those, like in Texas, they have those Christian pregnancy crisis centers that act as like abortion facilities, but it's a pastor trying to convince you to keep the baby.
Oh, my God.
They go to one of those, and they're talking to a pastor, and she's like, I have a baby inside me, and I want it out. And the pastor's just like, well, that would be killing life because that baby inside you is breathing. And then Sacha Baron Cohen's like, it's not breathing. I was in the alley giving my daughter some pleasure, and I accidentally put a baby inside her.
Oh.
Oh wow.
This is amazing.
It's fucking great. I died. I was in tears. I would say if you want distraction from the hellhole we're living in, Borat 2 does a good job with that.
Okay.
Do you guys have anything else?
After that, no, I don't think.
All right. I'll just give a quick shout out. I started The Loop by Jeremy Robert Johnson.
Oh, fantastic book.
And I'm taking it as hell so far.
Oh my God, I fucking loved that book. You're in right. I mean, you want a wild fucking horror book. That's it. That's crazy.
I mean, I've been reading Jeremy Robert Johnson since like his Bizarro collections were coming out almost over 10 years ago.
That was my introduction to his work, and I need to find the rest of his stuff as soon as I can.
Been fun to see him blow up the way that he did.
Yeah, I think this one looks like it's been a pretty huge release for him, so that's awesome.
Well, I'd say if we're done with this, it's time to jump into some scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah, now that we've discussed Borat, let's get to a children's story.
Let's go with some scary stories, baby.
Jin Kui.
Wawa. I remember when I brought the podcast to you, Matt, you were deciding on like what you wanted to discuss.
Yes.
And ultimately we landed on scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yes. It started with originally it was going to be a King book. And I was like, well, my favorite's The Stand. And we're just like, well, there's no way in hell that's going to happen.
That's going to be like a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, I was like, I think they use those to prop up mobile home foundations now. So
right,
a little too big.
I'm still rereading The Stand myself. So
yeah, it is one of those books where you kind of just, it's in the back. It's just staring at you. It's like, when are you going to get back to me? It's like, well, I have some of these smaller books. I'll do those and then I'll come back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, then I guess I just mentioned, scary stories sounded like a good idea. And then I thought about all three at first because they weren't very long books. I think they're about maybe 100 pages each.
Yeah.
But then we just landed on doing the first one, which I thought, because they're not really easy to get a hold of anymore either.
No.
I think
the first one's the most memorable, I think.
Yeah. A lot of people remember the first book more than the others. Although, when I was rereading through this, I do realize in the third book, there's a lot more of the stories that people reference when people
the spider,
when they say
wasn't the spider egg one in the third book?
Yeah, Red Spot was, Harold was. What other one was there? I'm trying to remember. I got the book right here, and I'm trying to look through it real quick to see what other ones were there. But yeah, I mean, there were some of the more famous stories that people remember when people mention scary stories were in the third one. But the first one, I feel like laid the groundwork perfectly for where this series was going to go from there.
Yeah.
Because the first book, I mean, when you start this, it starts you right off with the campy ass shit where you're reading a story and then you grab a friend and scream at him.
Yeah.
And it's perfect.
Yeah. I remember checking these out all the time at the library. I think a lot of people, when you get that question, oh, what got you into horror? Definitely, I was reading Stephen King. I remember in 5th grade we did The Raven and being obsessed with that. But I think these scary stories were the big one because even just the artwork. I think that was the hook was just and it. I've heard because I picked this up through Kindle, which felt very weird to read this in Kindle because I'm just used to the bigger book of it. But people had been saying they've changed some of the artwork in the newer versions.
They had. Yep.
They have.
Okay, because I was trying to remember. I mean, I liked it in here, and I couldn't remember. I felt like there was more. Yeah,
the new artwork is.
Yeah, but the Kindle version's the classic artwork.
Is it?
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I mean, I think that was 90% of what hooked me way back when was all the crazy artwork.
Charcoal drawings.
Yeah, just the crazy creepiness of it all, and then even it was that, and then we used to have a How to Draw Monsters that had to have been from the 70s, and it had all these trippy monsters in it. So those were my two intros to horror, I think, officially. But
nice. I mention this a lot whenever I'm on a podcast for an interview, and they say, what got you into writing horror or reading horror or horror in general, and scary stories is always where I go back to. It was my start.
Yeah.
Everybody was reading Goosebumps books, which I did too. But when we would go to the library in school and I'd just see these things sitting on the shelf, you're just like, I can't not try this.
Yeah.
You know, you pull the cover off and you're like, what in God's name is that on the front? But I remember there were certain stories when I was a kid I didn't even want to read because the art freaked me out so much.
Yeah, definitely.
And like, there were pages I didn't even want to touch because of the picture. But yeah, I love these books so much. I reread these every year. It's just, even though they're just stupid, campy fun when you get down. I mean, there's some stories in here that are very well done, actually.
Yeah.
When you narrow it down for a child audience. Some of them I don't even know how the hell they put in here for kids.
I know.
Like the one with the head rolling down the chimney.
Yeah. I mean,
And
like even when you start this book and like the first story you're greeted with is like the big toe.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's
Would you
just
be the big
boy.
toes? Kind of like the golden arm a little bit.
Rich, you and I had kind of talked about this a little bit on Messenger about how when you get to the end and you read, I guess the afterword, where he's talking about the different places where these stories came from. It's very, very interesting to see like the different interpretations of all these. But yeah, just the fact that this kid just finds a toe in a garden, rips it out, and then his mom's just like, yeah, we'll eat that.
Yeah.
And like you read that as a kid and you're like, well, I mean, is that what poor people do?
Yeah, right.
Makes sense to me.
And I was trying to figure out, like, how big of a toe was it if they had each sliced it into like a slice for each of them? I was like,
Well, it was the big toe.
Yeah, it was a big toe. I was always thinking it was about maybe the size of a small ham.
yeah. Like the Grinch carving up the who beast at the end of the. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, like that story is a wild one to start on, and then like all the other ones following that, like you had The Walk and you had What Do You Come For? They're all just short little ones where you just scream at somebody, and then the Me Tai Doty Walker is the one that I, as a kid, laughed my ass off anytime somebody was reading it because it has those chant parts in it where you're supposed to be the ghost, and you just talk louder, but it always just says like these weird, stupid things.
Yeah.
And, like now that I'm grown up now, like when you see it and you're reading it, you're like in your head, you're reading it and you think to yourself, this kind of sounds like the gibberish like that like is in some Korn songs that they just throw in every now and then.
He was reading this and he was like, "Oh, that's a great idea."
It's like, oh, Me Tai Doty Walker. Yeah, let's do that.
Born by the way of scary stories to tell in the dark.
Oh my god.
That would be fucking fantastic. We should do an album where they just theme it off after each one of these stories. That would be cool.
That would be. I mean, and there's even a couple that have like some notes to it, so you can at least set it up.
Oh yeah. There was and that was the other thing I always found interesting about these books was there were songs in them.
Yes.
Just like songs and poems, like Old Woman and All Skin and Bone, like, and there was the one about if a hearse goes by, you may be the next to die, and
I think we used to sing that one in school.
Yeah, we did too, and I went to an all Catholic elementary school. But yeah, I think one of my favorite stories out of the first book's collection was The Thing, because it's very simplistic, but it's like it's two friends. I think their names were Ted and Sam, and they're just like sitting outside a post office just talking, and then they hear something in a cornfield. And it just keeps like darting away at first and they can't get a good look at it. And then like it finally shows up. And then for one reason, the one friend's just like, I'm going to get closer. And it's like, what? Like, okay. I mean, Darwin's theory, I guess. Like,
right. Like, it's cool. You should go close to that stranger.
Yeah. It's like, that thing looks like it's a decaying man. I'll get closer. We'll look at it. Yeah. Maybe I could give it a little bit of ointment, make it all better.
It looks like it's hanging out in the turnip field all night.
Yeah, that's right. It was a turnip field. Yeah. But I feel like I love that story because I feel like no matter where you live, there's a place in your mind that or like a place in your life that you've probably been where you can kind of tie a good picture of that all together.
Yeah.
That's some of the things I like is how simplistic the stories are, because there's like literally barely any detail.
Oh yeah.
In any, but you can still get an idea in your head. Like you'll find something deep within that you create, like, oh yeah, there's something like that nearby, and then you put yourself there, and it adds to it.
Well, and I was thinking too, as I was going back through it, I was like, a couple things. One was like, this is a great like story starter because it is so like sparse in the details and that they are so short. You could really expand on a lot of these.
Oh yeah.
And do your own thing, and which also made me think of when we covered the Husband Stitch, because she pulls out a number of these stories and makes reference to them. Specifically, I remember the one with the kids, and they're like, "Oh, that cemetery's haunted." So the girl goes out and she sticks a knife in to say that she was there, but she thinks something grabbed them. I mean, that was like word for word in the Husband Stitch by Sylvia, right? Carmen Marie Marcado. In her collection, she has the Husband Stitch, and she makes a reference to that story. And I think there's another one too. I think it's I can't remember which one, but anyway, that was like the first thing I kind of picked up as I was reading this the other day. I was just like, man, these are all great things you can really expand on and do something kind of crazy with. And the other thing I didn't remember until reading this was how much of these are just like retellings of folk legends. Yeah. And you got the hook for the hand story. You got the truck with the headlights, which I thought was very interesting story of like this serial killer in the back of the girl's car. And every time he popped up, they would flash the headlights on him. I thought that was it's kind of terrifying to think about just some random person in there.
Yeah, and I also love how a lot of those stories are kind of based off of real events.
Yeah.
And the chapter just starts titled Other Dangers. Yeah. I'm like, these are real, and you're playing it off as like the most, it can happen. Whatever.
It can happen.
Because the babysitter is the other like quintessential story that gets passed around a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess when you think about it, what were those movies called?
Like like Scream kind of took it.
Yeah, Scream kind of. There were like they did a remake of it in the early 2000s as well. It was like just a woman home alone, and she gets called, and it's like they keep calling her back, and
I can't remember is coming from inside the house.
Yeah, pretty much. It's that same idea, and it's great because you feel like home is where you're the safest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And the hook I always thought was great because I'm just like, they got this, like, how many criminals? I mean, I don't know the real statistic, but how many have a hook hand?
Right? And then you're like, the poor guy lost his hook. Like,
now he's got nothing.
Now he's just got a nub. It's just like,
he's just running around like, damn it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you for help.
Dang it. Why does everyone run away from me?
Now he's even more pissed off because these damn kids stole his hand.
Yeah,
that's true. They just like tear off. He's like, "Hey, wait!
I
just needed directions."
And I love you had brought up, Rich, the head coming down the chimney. That one, there's a couple in here that like go really weird, and that's one of them where not like it's this old woman and she's like, "Oh, I wish I wasn't alone," and then wait, no, that's different than the head one. This is the feet. Basically, this one, she wishes she wasn't alone, and then these like feet come down the chimney, then legs come down the chimney, and then torso comes down the chimney, and then the body just dances around the room. Yeah. and that was kind of the end of it. Well, you said you didn't want to be alone, and I'm like, this is so weird. Like even as a kid, just to imagine this like corpse dancing around the room.
I also love the second section where it's like instead of scary stories, these ones are just silly.
Oh yeah.
Like the Viper. I always thought the Viper was funny because I'm like, you wasted a page and a half on a pun.
Yeah. Oh man, or the guy that doesn't want to be dead, and so then they dance him to death.
Oh yeah. I think another one that's like in my, I guess you could say the more serious stories that I liked was When Martin Comes, because it was just like a guy. Yeah, he just like goes into an abandoned house and there's just like cats.
Yes.
Like, I also find it funny when if you read through all three of them in a sitting, or like not a sitting, but like if you decide like to get a treasury collection, you read through it all, you will realize how many stories have the exact same similar setup.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, you're like, oh, the bloody head rolling down the chimney. I'm like, there's actually several stories that have that kind of a thing. But just like when Martin comes, there's several that it's just like a guy's driving around, either a car breaks down or it starts storming and he has to get out of the rain. So he just goes into an abandoned house, which then also happens to have firewood near the fireplace. They'll start a fire and then they fall asleep. And then I'm just like, who's sleeping in this?
Especially that one. Yeah, I think that it's like it looked like somebody might have been living there. And it's like, how do you just go into a random house and be like, it's cool, I'm going to sleep, nothing bad will happen?
Yeah, it's just so strange. But then it's just like, you know, a cat shows up, he hears a cat talk, and then he's just like, I'll go back to bed.
Yeah. Like, no thanks. Oh my gosh. That was the one thing where you could tell, like, when this book was written, or when these stories were told, just where it was like a little bit more maybe innocent, because like exactly that. It's like this day and age, you wouldn't go into a random house. You would probably get shot.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Or just like people showing up or in your car, like again that person in the car, it's like, no thanks, that would bring some major problems.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, you're absolutely right. Like, the book is a product of its time. Like, in this day and age, I'm afraid to even go out in public.
Yeah, right. I'm not gonna just show up like that young, I think it's like a young married couple, and they go like, oh man, it's really dark out, let's go stay at this old couple's house. It's like, why would you do that? I'm like, yeah, people
that was another one. I think they were driving and the car broke down. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, the house was burnt down forever ago.
Yeah, they stayed at night in a ghost house.
Yeah.
Did they at least take back the envelope of money they had left there?
Right.
Yeah, because like remember they go back and like the I think the woman screams because they see the letter like laying in the ashes or something.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'd probably be like, well, I guess I'll take that back then.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, fuck that.
They didn't want it. Like
they said no.
Yeah, the introduction to hobos or whatever. It's just like, oh, there's a burnout shack, I'm gonna sleep in it. Tell everyone it was an old couple that lived there.
That's my alibi.
That's my alibi. I did like that they introduced the Wendigo in this. I thought that was was neat to kind of like see. I'm like, oh yeah, there's the Wendigo story. And
I was going to mention the Wendigo one, especially because like Wendigos are kind of in now.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
Matt's been on a little Wendigo kick these last few months.
I'm telling you, that's our next big one is the Wendigo.
Hey man, I have a Wendigo short story I'm trying to sell, so
you'll get in there. Just have a man a man of dust sitting in a store. Like I thought
First it was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, then it was Until Dawn, and now it's popping up everywhere.
Yeah, see.
Gotta find out what the hell's going on with that Antlers movie.
I know, really.
Oh, yeah.
One day.
Wait. Why does that sound familiar?
It's the Nick and Costa Quiet Boy adaptation.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've been waiting to see that too. I almost forgot all about it until you just mentioned it right now.
Yeah.
Now it hurts again because I want to see it so bad.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out. Apparently they're releasing it now in February 21.
Fucker.
That's like we talked about that a year ago.
Yeah, we just put it on straight to VOD already.
Seriously.
I know. I can't get off that soapbox enough. I'm like, theaters are going to die. Just put the shit on VOD.
Yeah.
Like, stop screwing around.
I'd pay $20 to see Antlers. I don't care. I want to see it so bad.
Well, they keep holding everything back for release. We're going into yet another wave of coronavirus outbreaks. We have had one of our largest single-day infections. And it's like, yeah, by the time you guys get around to releasing this in March of 21 and April and May of 21, there might not be much left in the way of movie theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike, that's just crazy talk. We all know this isn't real.
It's just a liberal hoax from the lamestream media.
It's just a cold.
Yeah.
You know, the flu kills 30,000 people a year. Small potatoes. This
Honestly,
COVID.
if you just listen to Alex Jones, he tells us the truth. He takes some brain force, you're good.
Do we have Alex Jones with us today?
Oh, God. I thought this would end.
No, you don't have to do that. Don't listen to these two fools. You do your thing.
All you have to do is get my favorite toothpaste, Cobalt Blue Super Gel toothpaste. It'll clear that right up.
That'll fix the COVID.
Be gone, COVID.
This is bleaching ingredient in that toothpaste.
Oh, absolutely. It's the only thing that eradicates it.
It makes your teeth very white.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't even need a UV light. Just
You don't need-
bright whites right away. We have secret ingredients that we harvested from meteorites. Maybe we can get them.
And if the government's calling you, it's from inside your house.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
I've been getting so many calls. It's ridiculous.
What are you looking up on Google then, Matt?
I don't know. I just keep telling them it's not me.
What are you looking up on Google?
I'm just trying to find out about faces and noses.
What to do with them?
All right.
What's the purpose of this?
How to make leather out of human skin.
I actually did have to Google that not too long ago for reasons.
Uh-huh.
All right, guys. Well, I gotta go. Gotta go make a few calls.
Erase my name from this podcast.
If any of you see a party van pull up outside, it's totally fun.
That was a good little tangent.
Yeah.
I did have to, like we've said, there's songs and there's poems in this, and there's one about Leeds, which I thought was very interesting after recently having read Gateways to Abomination.
Yes, Leeds, Massachusetts.
And I was like, oh, I wonder where some ideas came from.
No WXXT though.
No, but this poem could have been from that. And it's still it cracks me up, like, and you had mentioned this earlier, Matt, but just the fact that like they give you stage direction in a lot of these stories.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that's such a funny like addition to this, and shows like, hey, we're writing this for children, so go ahead and tell the story.
Yeah.
And jump to your friends and scream and or I love that they do the peeled grapes. They tell you how to do the body parts. And
Yep.
And
I also love when they tell you to scream, they actually write in all caps, ah.
In case you don't
Some
know
of them
how
are
to
like,
scream.
stomp your foot.
Yes. Like,
These are patented maneuvers of fear.
And I think at the end we were talking about that, like where they give you the like background, but they also for that one, I think they tell you to like, or no, it was because I think Mark Twain had written one of these stories or like in a version of it, and they were taking his directions, and he's like, find the girl that's sitting alone and stare at her awkwardly, maybe not awkwardly, but like stare at her for a long time and then say something. It's just like, oh, Mark Twain, you little pervert.
Yeah.
If I could find it, I will read it verbatim, but it was just so funny. Like the notes in that note were like, well, I got the story. There's like a ton of editions of it. And Mark Twain says to do this.
I wonder how many whiskeys he was in before he...
I'm sure he was in plenty.
It's right here. It's like, find a girl preferably and let that awe-inspiring pause build into a deep hush. So you're just staring at her for a very long time. And then when it's the right length, jump at the girl and yell, "You've got it."
When what's the right length?
It says if you got the pause right, she'll fetch a dear little yelp and spring right out of her shoes.
She'll fetch a dear little yelp.
You're like, dang it, I got it wrong. Let's try this again, everybody.
She hit me.
And it's like, how many times did he practice that?
He's just in rooms like, that woman's alone.
Just at the bar, staring at girls.
It's like a minute
That's
past.
not creepy at all.
No.
Like, hey, Mark, it's been like 3 minutes. Have you finished the story yet? No! I got the Yelp.
I have to keep staring.
I need to keep
Like
staring.
an hour later, and everyone just forgets the story. Too long.
The woman already left.
No, come back. I'm not done staring at you yet.
Now she's uncomfortably looking for help from her friends.
Did you read my story about Huck Finn?
So I'm in the notes section right now of the book. For the real life story, I like two interesting things. So the one for High Beams, it says this retelling is based on a report by Carol's Drake. For parallels, he just mentioned some states, and he goes, in the variant I collected in Weaverly, Iowa, a woman stops for gasoline at a service station in a rundown neighborhood. The attendant notices a man hiding in the back seat. He takes woman's money but does not return with her change. After waiting several minutes, she goes inside for her money. The attendant then tells her about the man, and she calls the police.
Yeah, like that guy took a pretty big gamble. He just like let her out in the car.
Yeah. And then for the babysitter, it says Jeff Rosen, 16, Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, 1980.
Yep.
In a widespread version, the intruder is captured by the police after the children are found murdered in their beds. The sitter escapes. An American film based on this theme, When a Stranger Calls, was released in 1979.
Yep. When a Stranger Calls.
The back part's like, yeah, so here's the real shit. Like, I think that's scarier for like the kids when they get a hold of this book.
Yeah.
Especially when you read all the kids died.
Yeah.
Here's a children's book, and I read about this actual fucking murder that happens.
Yeah, they're just butchered in their sleep. It's fine. Go to bed.
Yeah, Matt, I think here's the one you were talking, the girl who stood on the grave.
Yeah.
This is a retelling of an old tale that is well known in America and the British Isles. In other versions, the victim is pinned down by a stick, a post, get this one, a croquet stake,
That's definitely
a sword,
A sword.
a sword, and a fork.
That's be one big fork.
Why do I have a feeling the fork is an American version of the tale?
Just like they're sitting around and the kid's like, here, take this fork.
Yeah, she just took her Big Mac to the graveyard, hang out.
It's a Big Mac with a fork.
Who doesn't, you fucking savage?
Oh God. Now we're getting into like Seinfeld territory here.
Ate all my Snickers with a knife and a fork. What are you talking about?
And then since I was in the notes, it just reminded me of another goofy story that was in here about the witch that turned the guy into a horse at night.
Yes.
And then rode him
Yes.
to a party. I love how it starts because it's just like the guy's roommate's just like, I can't get any sleep. He's like, why? And then he tells him the whole story, deadpan. And the guy's just like, oh, well, that's a pickle. Well, why don't you sleep in my room? I want to see what happens.
I want to do this.
I've never heard of anyone taking something like that and just being like, oh, wow, that's serious.
I'll try it.
Yeah, let me try. Oh,
It's like,
did
and then
love
ultimately he gets turned into the horse.
I did love the imagery at the end when the horse turns back into the witch and she's just like completely mutilated with her hands and feet.
oh my
Imagine the husband just being like, I told you not to do this. For years, I've been saying you're going to end up with horseshoes on your hands and feet.
Like, I told you.
How many times have I told you not to turn people into horses?
Like,
just
now
one of
we're-
those things.
Told you and told you.
Yeah, it's just like their married argument that they have all the time.
It's like that story when I was reading it, I was like, you could interpret this a couple different ways. This has definitely had to have woke up some some BDSM in some people. Like just I mean, think about it.
Like, oh God, horseshoes. That would be great.
Well, maybe not that part, but maybe.
But those beans being saddled.
I was just like, what is happening with this? It's
Here,
like,
bite into this bridle. It's fine.
and like there's no like what was she was just riding them, like was she taking them to a party? I was trying to remember.
She went to a party.
Okay, because I was like, what's the purpose? Clearly they have horses because he trades her in for a horse. So she's just like screwing around like, yeah, it's cool. I'll turn this guy into a horse and ride him around. I mean,
Yeah, and I also thought, I'm like, how far away did you live? So like, how far away did they live from you? So you walked like God knows how many miles on this one guy?
She like had to ride a horse to the house to turn him into a horse to ride to a party to come back. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking she's a bit of a drinker.
just a smidge. But I love the real version of the tale, or the retelling usually, is like the witch tale has been told all over the world. Honestly, this story was the first time I heard of the witch turning people into horses. But
yeah,
the retelling in this book is based on a tale from the Kentucky mountains reported by Leonard Roberts. In that version, the old man takes a gun and blows his wife's brains out after he realizes she's a witch.
Holy crap! Wow.
Yeah.
It's a bit more of a severe ending.
Yeah. Damn it, you're a witch.
Could you just imagine Schwartz sitting down to like that guy telling him this story, and he's like, "Well, I got to rewrite that a tad."
I better, but I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put it in the notes just to be safe.
Consider it the divorce.
Meanwhile, like Gamel's back at home, and he's got this beautiful, like fucking charcoal drawing of this woman's brains getting blown out. It's like, no, we can't use that. He's like, oh,
damn it! Spent all my time on this.
This is my best work yet. What do you mean?
Just burn it. The kids won't like it.
Just burn it.
It's crazy. Like, it's such a crazy story.
I love the first collection because it literally goes all over the place.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have Wendigo, you have ghost stories, you have things that could really happen. You know, you have some legends.
You have alligator people.
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about the alligator.
Yes.
That story. Oh my God, that story is so dumb.
I know. I was like waiting for something, and then they're like, "Well, we just see a big alligator and two little ones swimming next to it."
They'd never seen the family again. It's just like, okay, like how? I mean, how did they?
Yeah.
But every now and then,
swamp
people
water
will be
does.
out fishing, and they'll spot the alligators.
This book is a really good entryway into like horror for kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, I remember, for me, it was this and Goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you a funny, embarrassing story about me and Goosebumps.
Uh-oh.
Do tell.
So, remember when like grocery stores used to sell Goosebumps books?
Yeah.
I bought I begged my dad to buy me a Goosebumps book, and it came with a pair of boxer shorts.
Awesome.
Like Goosebumps boxer shorts. As you do. I'm like in second grade, so I have no idea what boxer shorts were. I just saw shorts.
Oh no.
So I put my underwear on, then I put the boxer shorts over the underwear, and I went to school.
Running around. Who told you, or did everyone just kind of watch?
Everyone just kind of watched and laughed at me.
Well,
and then
they
I got
weren't
sent
when
to
they
like
said, "Reader beware, you're in for a scare."
I was a fucking idiot.
Hey, it's a cool story.
Well, yeah, you didn't know.
Don't feel
childhood
bad,
trauma.
We're all fucking idiots.
And I mean, those juvie records are sealed now. No one has to know.
Yeah, that's true. What happened in the past stays in the past.
That's right. It's like Vegas.
Yeah, something like that.
Not everything stays in Vegas.
I mean, herpes are for life.
One thing's for sure. If it was anything given out for free in a Goosebumps book, you were styling.
Oh, totally. You know, I don't think I actually read any of the Goosebump books. I don't know why I avoided those.
Probably because one of them had a giant dummy on the cover.
Oh, that could be it. I did, yeah. That definitely was one I was like, I'm not going to read. No way. Though I did watch the movie, and the movie was okay.
So I feel like these books were in competition back then because of, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I feel like these two books literally split apart. Like, I feel like that's in your early life when you realize I'm going to read stuff that's more edgy.
Yeah.
Than reading just the stuff that everybody's like, oh, well, look at this. It's about a ghost beach. You know? But yeah, I mean, I've read Goosebumps growing up too. And like, even the one that I read this month, it was one I just never read. And it was just kind of sucked. Like, I get it's supposed to be for kids, but even so, you know, you can still put your headspace in that mentality. Yeah. You know, you can always reel it back a little bit, but even so, it's just like, oh, it's.
I'm trying to, like, I can't exactly say why I didn't. I do think, because like I was reading these, and then we used to get, I can't remember what those names of those books were, but it was very similar to this, basically, where they would take old legends and they would spook them up. So like like still more scary stories for sleepovers. Yeah, something like that, where they'd be like, oh, a couple went to a diner and everyone was weird and the coffee tasted stale, and then when they left, they realized there was no diner there and all that kind of like. Or like tasted stale. For some reason,
some ghost grounds for you.
Stuck in my head was like they would drink the coffee and they'd be like, "Oh, this is really stale," and then the Flo or whoever the waitress was like, "Eh," and then that was the end of it. Or like,
that just more reminded me of the Christopher Walken spoofing the Dead Zone on Saturday Night Live.
Oh God!
Just don't drink the coffee. You can stop this.
Oh my God!
Or like it's not Mothman, but who's the other? There's like another flying gargoyle.
Gamera?
Is that? Wait, what? No. Are you talking about Godzilla?
You talking about like Jersey Devil?
Wait, were you not talking about Godzilla?
No, though I did watch all of those. But no, it was like some weird, maybe it was the Jersey Devil. It was something like, so, you know, like in the Batman animated series, there was like the giant bat that would fly around. It was kind of like that.
Man-Bat.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, but it's like a legend in like Papua New Guinea or something.
Yeah. So it's like that. So like I remember reading those things, and then like Stephen King or like yeah. So I don't know. And by talking about embarrassing stories, I won't say his name, but I remember my friend, he ended up getting in the newspaper because he had all the Goosebumps, and he had this really goofy photo of him with all the Goosebumps on his fridge. And I always remember being like, "Oh man, dude, this is not cool."
I don't know. You know what you call that is a panty dropper.
Yeah.
He did keep it in his wallet.
Right next to a stack of Magnum condoms.
I was going to say Goosebump condoms, but...
Yeah. Apparently, instead of boxers, it's condom.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It just says, "You're in for a scare."
They're ribbed for her ghoulish pleasure.
Only in certain test markets.
Not available in Tennessee.
You will still get pregnant.
Does it have a hole in it? Does it not? Who knows?
Squeeze it and slime comes out.
Oh. All right, that's enough of that. No.
Oh man, amazing!
Fucking Christ!
Oh, I love it. But yeah, this is a great book. It's a lot of fun to read.
Oh, I'm never going to be let back on this ever again.
No, this is great. This is what we want.
I just love how you tried to pull it back and be serious. Like, it's good book.
This is great. Highly educational.
I recommend it for your children.
It's really good if your kids ages 3 to 5.
It even gives you directions to spook them. You're good.
Yep.
Oh God, my ribs hurt.
Oh shit!
my God.
You're gonna have like fucking 5 minutes of laughing to end out of this.
No, you keep it. You keep it in.
Well, it was a nice attempt to salvage things, Matt.
Every once in a while.
Honestly, that's what made it funnier. Was like you trying to salvage it.
That's a real good book, though, you know?
Fun for all ages.
Yeah, your kids will love it.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall of any of your listeners that came in to listen to this because they're like, oh yeah, I have fond memories of this.
They're like, oh no, they've ruined
Now
it.
they'll never be able to look at the book the same again.
Every time they try to read it, it's just Alex Jones reading to them.
Oh God.
Think about Goosebump boxers and condoms.
Yeah.
Yep. Honestly, though, like at least for me, I'm pretty sure for you guys too. Like these books are just foundational books that got us into the weird shit that we're into these days. Be it like horseshoe BDSM or just reading horror.
I'm telling you, read that one again with that mindset, and you'll see it.
It opened a lot of doors for various interests for a lot of people.
I mean, and I would say also, like, you know, any new parents out there, these are a pretty safe collection of things for, you know, if you want your kids to read anything horror or they seem interested in. You know,
as long as they don't read the notes at the end, I think they're good.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, most kids don't.
That's true.
They get to that last story and they're like, oh, finally, I finished the book. And then they just throw it away.
Throw it into the fire. We don't need this anymore.
Well, I mean, it's really funny even with kids. Like I'm an English teacher. I teach like high school English. Mm-hmm. And this last week I've been teaching everyone's favorite of Mice and Men. Or last month, I should say.
That. Oh my God. That is one of my favorite books.
And like, I love that book too.
Yeah.
And one of the kids, the entire class, this kid was like, would not answer any questions, was talking about like how much he didn't like this book, how boring it is. And then it ends and like, oh, this book was really good. And I'm like, you spent the last 2 weeks shitting on this book, and now you're telling me it's pretty good.
Well, it's good that he had a turnaround on it.
It was all part of a bit. He just wanted to throw you off.
Yeah, that could have been it.
It could have been.
He's like, I've been taking my stage directions from Alan Schwartz. Or Alvin, whatever this guy's name is.
I think it's Alvin.
Alvin Schwartz, yep.
I was close.
Well, yeah, you were close. Good try, Matt.
Thanks. Did you guys see the movie? Was it any good?
I have not seen the movie.
I wanted to, but I hadn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
I've heard mixed things about it.
Yeah, so did I. I think that's what kind of kept me from jumping in.
I feel just like the book, like it's meant for like the book's meant for kids. The movie's meant for teens. And I think a lot of, I mean, I might lose us some listeners here.
Uh-oh.
I think a lot of horror fans don't put their positions in shoes of normies.
Normies.
Okay. I don't think you're going to lose any listeners over that. I think what happened earlier.
Yeah.
I think I've done that already.
Listen this far. But no, it's like
around. Honestly, we lost all of our listeners many episodes ago.
Yeah, just avoid. And India. India seems to be liking us a lot.
Yeah, we're big in India. The U.S. not so much.
The movie's made for young teenagers. And I don't think a 30-something, 40-something horror fan who grew up reading these books is going to understand that this movie's not really made for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I get told with the new Star Wars movies. Like, it's not your Star Wars film. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not good.
If they had planned it, maybe it would have been better, but they didn't have a plan.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with Star Wars is the whole thing was a giant movie game of Exquisite Corpse.
Yeah.
There wasn't no plan. It was just, here, write a script after I finish this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa, what the fuck did you do? You ruined all my plans. What were your plans? I don't even know my own plans. Fuck you.
Now let's randomly bring back a dead guy.
On the ruins of the Death Star. I'm having a conversation with myself. Leave me alone.
like with the movie, even you also have to keep in mind that they might have been making it to harken off of older people's nostalgia as well.
Yeah.
But
completely.
And that's the like. There's a lot of shit coming up out of nowhere that we grew up with as kids, and now all of a sudden it's having a resurgence, and that's because we've got money now. Well, we're supposed to.
You have
We're all
money?
supposed to have disposable incomes.
Those of us who made better life choices have money.
I can't really buy anything until like late next month.
I just mean even people with jobs right now, it's just like we don't want to spend money because it's like who knows what's coming up. So we don't spend it on anything. But that was the whole mindset. It's like, well, all these people that were kids then, they're now older, so they can spend money to go watch a Scary Stories movie that we'll make for kids. So then it just kind of pisses everybody off.
Yeah.
Because even like kids that go along with them, they don't get it. Teens are just kind of like, well, it's sort of a movie I would want, but it's not edgy enough. And then adults are like, what the hell did you do to my childhood?
Right. Reading this, I can't even see how they would make a movie out of this. I guess like expand a couple of the stories because they're all so short and they all are like we've been saying, either puns or based on one final like jump. It's like, how do you make
From what I understand, in the movie, the characters are teenagers and they break into a house that's supposedly haunted where they find a book that's locked away that awakens some of the creatures from the Scary Stories Tell in the Dark.
So kind of like the Goosebumps movie.
I was just gonna say, I just watched that movie.
Kind of like the Goosebumps movie, but darker, and no Jack Black, which might be to its benefit or detriment depending on the type of person you are.
When they announced the movie at first, I knew it wasn't going to be perfect. Because nothing that's a rehash of any nostalgia ever is perfect when they redo it. It's very, very slim. The amounts of redos we've had that were good. So I kind of wish they wouldn't have done it at all, honestly, because like Matt said, most of the stories in here that people kind of remember all have either like a goofy twist or, like even the darker stories, they still end on something that's decent of a happy ending of sorts.
Yeah.
So to have something that's so fragmented, like I think, the longest story in any of these collections might be 3 pages.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of a hard thing to make a movie out of. But going that approach where it's like, oh, they find a book and it brings these things it brings these things into reality. But at the same time, it's like it's bringing them into reality, but only if you know what the hell it is, are you going to understand the severity of that thing being alive or, the purpose behind it at all.
Yeah.
So, I never, when they said they were going to do it, I even said, I was like, how the hell do you even do this? Like with Goosebumps, at least made sense because it was like he made a world of monsters.
Yeah.
That was his idea. Like through the whole thing, it was just all these monsters existed in the real world. There's stuff that's metaphysical. There's stuff that's just ghosts. There's things in different, dimensions and dreams. It's like, how do you get that all to come together?
And all the ones that you would have been done before. I mean, we just said that one Stranger Calls, and it's like, or we've seen the Hook story in multiple things. So it's like, all the ones that you would want to do have already been done. So you can't really rehash those. And, I don't know. It's like the Big Toe would be like a 5-minute movie, and that would be
the Big Toe is in the movie, apparently.
Is it?
Oh, God.
Wow. Do they eat the toe?
I remember the trailer being like, you have my toe.
I mean, I would be down to see them eating a toe, but that'd be about it. Is the horse one in it?
Talk about fetishes, Jesus.
I know. That just made me think. I was like, do they do the horse story? That's in the rated R version.
But even like, so like the movies are being edged for teenagers. Like I think I'm the youngest one out of the group of us, but I was a teenager in the PG-13 horror boom of the early 2000s.
Yeah,
and like. The Ring still holds up well as like in adults.
That's about it though from that generation.
That is about it.
Yeah.
But I will say though, seeing The Ring when you're like 14 years old, man. That
I imagine. Yeah.
I thought The Grudge was pretty good too.
I was gonna say I was just about the first Grudge was decent from that whole Japanese horror resurgence that happened then. I liked the first Ring, didn't care for the second one.
Now they're just milking it.
Yeah. Well, and then they had that. I know. Sorry, going off on more tangents, but it was just I remember watching that, and then they had that scene where it's just like the deer were attacking the car, and I'm like, what? I'm like, what is this ghost's powers? Like
everything. There's no rules.
I work like land Aquaman. But yeah, I even if you're a grown up adult and you just kind of want some nostalgia, definitely pick up any of these. You can like I'm an avid yard sailing person.
Yes.
And God knows most of my book collection has been acquired by doing so, because I'm not going to pay the price that some of these books are to get them. But you can probably find the paperbacks easily. But if you want to buy like something that has a little bit more longevity, there's a Scary Stories Treasury that's a hardback. And I think you can get it on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all those places. And it's a good collection.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend picking that up.
If you have some kids, you want to entertain the kids, this is a good book to do it with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even not I know we joked a lot about the notes, but I feel like the notes section is such an awesome addition that he put in there, because if you were going to say like, oh man, I need a story prompt or a story idea, flip through the back and he's got like all the references so you can go back to where these stories originally came from and then maybe pull something from it. I again mentioned that the humans or the husband Stitch pulls some of these. I think Gwendolyn Keist's Pretty Marys All in a Row, which are all kind of urban legend Mary stories. I think I'm pretty positive a couple of those were from this, or like there's references. So it's like people have done it. So you can definitely take this and use it as research. So, I mean, even if you don't have kids, it's a worth to check out.
Yeah,
if you're a horror fan, it's worth owning.
And I totally agree. Like the back notes are great for prompts. And, as I said earlier that I was reading local ghost story books this month, I've been doing that every month because, I use it as a time to recharge creativity as a writer, because especially I do the thing where I'm writing a short story a month for a Facebook group, you eventually start running out of ideas.
Yeah.
Especially when you're 3 collections in. So you kind of like, I need stuff. I need something that sparks something. So like the notes in there and, just the local ghost story stuff in general, I've always found fascinating. Even like crypto, zoology stuff, I've always found fascinating. And that book has it all. Like Scary Stories, it goes over multiple different cryptos things. So yeah, I've always loved it.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you brought up those local ones, because a couple months ago because I kind of do that too. I'll look for stuff, especially here in Michigan, and I have a book all about the Dog Man, and it's entertaining, and there's some good ideas in there. And then the ghost story, there's a ton of like crazy stories, which all states probably have, and those are just chock full of ideas that you could like take and expand on. Those are great books. I always wonder like what those authors are like how did they. I mean, that's got to be a fun just side job, just to be like, I'm going to go hunt around these crazy stories and just retell them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been having an idea in the back burner myself of writing one myself. Like, because for Pennsylvania, there is a lot more ghost lore and monster stories than I thought there even were.
Yeah.
Because I just went online one day and just started doing some research, and I'm like, my God, we have Sasquatch, we have our own Loch Ness Monster, we have Thunderbirds. There's a gamut of places that are haunted. One right down the street from my house.
Oh, that's crazy.
So it's just like I could put a field guide together, and I had thought, I just haven't gotten around to doing it because there's not enough time. Yeah. But I always wanted to do a monster and ghost field guide and just have, pictures and tell my stories of them being there and the lore behind it. And I always find them to be really fun. And maybe someday I'll get one together. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, no, those would be sweet. It's fun to check those, and tie it to this. It's the same thing. It's those goofy stories that you can do a lot with. So
thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Before we wrap everything up, is there any books that you want to plug? This episode won't be out till early next year sometime.
Oh, early next year.
Yeah. We have a backlog.
I'm sure by sometime next year, I'm going to have Horrors Untold Volume 4 out. So I know by summer I'm going to have a book out by Death's Head Press that has 2 novellas in it, one by myself called Melancholia and one by Brian Keene. I'm not exactly sure what the title of that story is yet, but the contracts are all in, and that should be out by spring or summer next year.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is going to be really awesome. Horrors Untold have been doing really well for you so far, so it's a good brand to keep on going up with.
I love writing them just because it's a creative challenge. And I was thinking about putting out a novella as well in between there, self-published, every now and then having ones to send for submissions. If anyone's interested in looking into any of my work, just search my name, Matt Wildasin, on Amazon. I'm up to Volume 3 in Horrors Untold, and I had recently just published The Demon in the Glass, which was a novella of Lovecraftian origin. So nice. I kind of go all over the place, just like Scary Stories does.
And where can listeners get in touch with you?
If they want to get in touch with me personally, if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Matt_Wildasin.
Perfect. And Matt?
I am... are you saying... Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Other Matt. Sorry.
Other Matt. Podcast Matt.
We did really good. We didn't have that happen till just now. That's awesome. I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM.
And Mike?
You can find me on Twitter at MikeH5856 or hit up my website, michaelpatrickhicks.com.
And even though this book's going to be out in a while, you have an exciting release coming out soon.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Halloween, the Centralia anthology comes out with Colin Bunn, Brian Keene, Adam Caesar, Brian Quinn, and Heath Amodio. So that'll be out. Read. Yeah, that'll be out by the time this airs. There's another project I'm working on with Colin Bunn that I don't know by the time this airs if any details will be out. So I'm going to be a little bit mum on that one for now, but stay tuned.
Ooh,
nice.
Awesome. Very exciting.
I laugh about that. Oh, I was surprised that Brian Quinn has a story in there. I was like, is that the same one from Impractical Jokers?
It is indeed.
It's crazy. He it's so funny, and not to go into a tangent, but he's I find him in such random locations, not in real life, but he's like
I always found him at the bowling alley the other day. It was crazy.
Sat outside his house for an hour. It was cool.
So random to see him there.
like he pops up with Kevin Smith, and then he popped up in some movie and then he was doing hosting for a Rick and Morty thing. So he's I don't know. It was just crazy to see him in your collection too. I was like, oh, what's happening?
Crazy things are happening.
I gotta follow him a little bit more detailed, I guess.
You can follow me on Twitter at Rudy53088 and make sure to follow, rate, subscribe our podcast, Add Into Staring, and we're available on all the major streaming platforms. Let's get our algorithm out there and boost this up. But this is Richard Gerlach saying keep staring.
You don't have to find an interdimensional saloon to have a pint of alien beer with me, Chrissy Garrison. Just tune into my Alien Beer podcast each Thursday, and I'll share my speculative fiction stories with you. And every other week, I'll be serving up a new installment in my science fiction serial, The Multiverse Blues. Meanwhile, catch up with me at sillyhatbooks.com/podcast. See you there.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.